Mala! Yakmala! Welcome back, my friends, to the cult film Showdown! We are preparing to enter the octagon today. I am your host, the intercessor, Stan Adu, and I am joined by my devilish foes. I've got Abaddon, James Cotta.
I don't even know how to respond to that. That's it. Is that a compliment?
Better than Old Scratch.
Well, speaking of Old Scratch, there you are, Jackal.
Oh, and I gotta announce, it's official. As you know, I've been going through a bit of an identity crisis, and I do have a new name. First name is now Jacob. Last name Blatter.
Jacob Blatter. Okay.
Jacob Blatter.
All right. And finally rounding out our motley crew, Asmodeus, Nick Boxer.
Greetings and salutations. Admodius. I like it. I'm keeping that one. That is good. Don't know how to spell it. Of course, I don't know how to spell Abdar either. Or Nick, for that matter.
Well, it's
hey, you don't have a K. There's no K on your name. just to help you out.
Yeah. It's only 3 letters, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, we telling him what letters aren't on it isn't a lot of help.
Start with the N.
There's no Z either.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, good point. No Z and no K.
Let's just give much to go on.
Yeah.
Well,
This is only 24 letters left.
Process of elimination. We'll get there eventually, but and there's not that many letters in the name of the featured performer of our wonderful movie this week, which is Rock and Roll Nightmare, and of course the featured performer is Thor, Jon Mikl Thor to be exact. And so I wanted to have this one on the show for a long time, and I'm happy that it gets to enter the octagon. But you know what I'm really happy about?
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm. Really happy that Nick, that's also not spelled with a P, gets to tell us what this one is all about.
Before we get that, Jon Mikl, is that how you say Thor's name?
That's his first name. Thor's his last name.
Sorry. But it's Jon Mikl Thor. Because it's spelled a little weird, so I kind of
M-I-K-L,
did not get that until you said it out loud.
There is a K in that one.
I'm not pitching we turn this into a spelling podcast, just to be clear.
Because those shoot right up the charts.
If you said Michael with a K, then that would be a guideline, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right, the plot
there's a K
of
in
Rock and
Michael.
Roll Nightmare
Anyways.
is detailed and intricate, so you guys will have to pay close attention.
Yeah.
Basically, what we have is a group of rock and rollers who rent a house to rehearse an album to get 10 minutes of new material. They're out there. They bring their stage manager to cook for them, but they are unaware that the house is possessed by demons, or a demon and a whole bunch of his squiggly little penis-like monsters. It's really unclear of what the demons or demon or demonic powers at work within the house and the property at large really are or do. It's really unclear, but it doesn't really matter. But these demon characters go off killing bandmates one after another, and sometimes replacing them with demonic double gangers. Really straight slasher until the very end, where we find out the entire movie doesn't matter and everyone who died was not really a person. They were some sort of figment of Thor's imagination. Turns out Thor, who I'm using his real name here, is an archangel of somebody, the interloper or inquisitor. And it's all been a trap to get Scratch, the head demon. And they fight and do some homoerotic posing. And it's awesome and like that. That is the movie. If that sells you, that's you know what? No surprises here. It is what it is.
And like I said, I mean, my favorite part of the show always is those recaps. Because do you guys ever get the feeling that there hasn't been a movie we watched yet that Nick by the end has completely spaced out and not paying attention to what's happening? Because usually it's pretty good until he gets near the end, and then it's like, that's not what happened.
Yeah, things tend to go a little hazy at that point.
In this case, he is definitely Beelzebub. He's definitely the devil, and nobody was actually killed. Those were people that the what do you call them again? Interloper.
Intercessor.
Yeah, but what did Nick call him? Interloper.
Right? Interloper and
I'm gonna go with that
integrator.
They list off about 10 names for everybody in the last few scenes.
It's true.
Totally.
It's true.
Doesn't mean I just created different bullshit for the bullshit they fed me.
Well, here's the thing about this is none of those people that that the demon or devil or whatever kills actually existed. They were manifestations that the
I did say that. I said none of it matters. None of those people were real.
Yeah. In order to drag in so what gets me is if all of this was fake and this was the archangel who's brought down by prayer to help people, that archangel from heaven sure is interested in a lot of premarital sex, because this film has a lot.
Yes, but only shot from directly behind, close up on the back.
That's true. And Thor is a former stripper, as is his wife, who's in the film.
There are a lot of scenes where that neither Thor nor the monsters are in. which does go to that, like, what is the point of that's like, why? Because he made them, they're fake. I get it, like that part I'm fine with, but why kind of put on a play when there's no audience is kind of
exactly. Why are they boning? Like,
I think I came away from this movie with a reaction that I sometimes have of, I have a series of questions.
There's a lot of questions that do come up, because the funny thing is that like there's all sorts of things that occur within the movie that get absolutely no payoff in the end, other than, well, turns out I fooled you. That's all. That's the payoff, is that I fooled you.
But if you want a movie of people where people do the dishes, this is the movie.
Oh my God! Is there a lot of dishes doing in this movie?
Scenes of people doing dishes at different points in this movie.
They wash more dishes than they ever use.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's weird enough that there's this many things of dishes, but there's only one meal.
I actually find that I think this tends to be something that incompetent filmmakers tend to go with, where there's moments of like and they also do it with driving at the beginning, where it's just like, okay, well, we need them to be doing something and they've got to be talking, and they latch on to something, and like doing dishes is what they latched onto here, where it's just like, oh, well, of course, we just had a meal, we need to have them do the dishes, right?
What? The thing is, you're talking about the van scene at the beginning, which lasts 10 minutes. And that scene is literally shot because they came in 10 minutes short of what he told the distributors. So Jon Mikl Thor just got everybody together and shot that, and just to fill in 10 minutes.
Oh, and you can tell that there's no audio because
it's just like music going and the thing driving for 10 minutes, which is a hell of a way to start a movie, and nothing happening. But it makes you wonder, because like if you took away, like, every single scene in this movie probably takes 4 times longer than it needs to. Like, usually scenes are quick. Everything in this is like if we took away all the sex scenes, which this movie would have been like 20 minutes long, and take away the driving, and you got 10 minutes. Like, you probably had 10 minutes worth of film written down. So how do you make a cult film Showdown classic? I think you get a guy in the ultimate vanity project, because this is a vanity project.
Oh yeah.
Beginning to end, which is not every single one of our. Because did we ever tell the theme of the season?
We didn't know. What I'm trying to remember what we call this.
85 minutes of fame.
85 minutes of fame. Thank you. 85 minutes of fame. So, of course, the classic Andy Warhol. In the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. This is films in which the star or one of the feature players is someone who is famous for something else. So in this case, Jon Mikl Thor. We'll call him famous for being a musician.
He's famous for a lot of things. He's also famous for, being on like the Carson show and like bending a, iron rod.
It's like a strong man.
Yeah. So he's done all sorts of stuff.
But certainly acting was not his primary.
Or writing, because he wrote the screenplay.
Definitely not writing.
So yes, in this case, it is Jon Mikl Thor, sir.
Was his day job a realtor? Because there are a lot of external shots of houses in this.
Well, at the very end, of course, it's supposed to tease the sequel, where it's just like it's a house.
What that is.
Yeah. And it's like this is a house that the devil has gone now to this house. There's going to be problems at this house, and in 2005, of course, there was a sequel.
Yeah, 18 years later.
Yep.
So you take your time, make sure you get the story straight this time. And from everything I've heard, it's worse than this movie. So that's got to be.
I know. I'm very excited.
I got it tracked down.
Yes.
I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. Isn't it called? Doesn't it have the Excelsior?
It's called. Yeah, it's called Intercessor.
Yeah. Intercessor.
Well, that's why
Rock and Roll Nightmare too.
Yeah. I wonder why you had that on the tip of your tongue.
Well, and I think it's a great word. Like I have no idea where the hell it came from, but it's just like, ooh, that Intercessor. That's a lot of fun to say.
Yeah, so Excalibur, Rock and Roll Nightmare 2. So anyways, the point being that this movie could have been 10 minutes. And for me, the problem with this film is I hadn't seen this film, but I had seen lots of Thor's music videos. And those are some incredible like the man is a walking piece of cheese. And so
yes, he is.
Those are some incredible heights to live up to. And for me, unfortunately, I was a little more bored than I expected to be, and it came down to the fact that the scenes would go on too long.
Well, this is it's a prime example of an incompetently done movie. Like, the director is completely out of his element. I mean, I would question if Thor's script even existed, or if they just walked into a scene and he was just like, yeah, so this is what I want from the scene. Let's try it. And
I believe it existed because I think it's in one of the scenes.
I was about to say when he's in bed, he's reading something that is not a book. It looks very much like a screenplay.
And I was going to ask if any of you gentlemen have ever gone to an acting class.
No.
All right. So, in other words, just like the movie, just like the actors in the movie, because obvious.
There was two people who, their roles were very challenging. There was two female leads there. The one who was married to the drummer and the one who was with Thor. I thought that their roles were very challenging because they had to pretend they liked the music.
I am so glad you're coming out on that side because I thought my audio was screwed up watching the film because they were rocking out and I kept turning up the volume and playing with my settings. I think I'm missing something here because this isn't music. This is sound.
Yeah. And the guy can't write and he can't act. Now we've also established he can't sing. So, but the thing that he is a great showman. And it's I can't remember who it was. I think it was Dee Snider said the difference between a lead singer and a showman is a lead singer leads the audience onto what's happening on the stage, and a frontman, basically showman, makes the audience part of what's happening on the stage. And that is what he is. That's what his skill is. He is to see him live would be a great experience. I don't know about now, but back in the day, because he was a great showman. But the music itself, isolated in its own little thing, oh, it's crap.
among my many questions is, so they're playing their music in the on to for the recording sessions, which is a whole other thing. Are they listening to their own music in their downtime as well?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Everything is by the Tritons, or in this case, Thor's band.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because
Yeah.
I'm sure that they couldn't afford to actually get music from anywhere else, and it seemed easiest to just use the music that he's already made.
Yeah, well, basically, I think it was for the Edge of Hell album. Basically, was like the 90% of this music.
Yeah.
Which is probably like his best, most famous album, which tells you something. There's what is it? We Like to Rock. That's one of the first song, and there's a music video for it, which clips from the movie of the band performing at the studio rehearsal. But instead of other clips from the movie with like the goblins or whatever they are, instead it's like other clips is like science fiction scenes of him fighting like aliens and shooting them off with alien lasers and stuff hitting his hammer and stuff. And you just, the man is incredible. Like, because he's clueless as to how he's perceived by normal society.
Oh,
and that's what I love about it.
Wait. He is the best thing in this movie, though. He was the only thing entertaining in the least.
Oh, because
Yeah.
he's putting it all in there. Nobody else, I mean, he's every scene.
I mean, even the awful musical numbers, I kind of wish they were shot from the front so I could see him.
Boy, he gives it everything all the time.
Yeah, you just can't tell it from the direction because I think it was probably a limitation of where their location limitation, where they decided, well, let's shoot it from the back down from the second floor, all the musical stuff.
That's true. And it was shot in 7 days. I don't know what the budget was, but it wasn't much, clearly. And shot in only 7 days by people who didn't know how to make a film.
Yeah,
So,
my
what do you
guess
expect?
was about a quarter, given that
Yeah,
it's
I was
just
thinking
like you
14 cents.
Yeah, you put a band, or not a band, but you put a group of people in a house, 10 minutes of driving, they fake rock and rolling and getting naked, and really that's there you go, that's this movie. And,
Yeah, a lot of getting naked, and then occasional shots of we always talk about it, like we love a film with lots of special effects in the film Showdown, and we're always so appreciative when you can have great special effects on a nothing budget, and then you got this film.
If the special effects in this didn't move, they'd be actually passable.
Maybe.
Movement did hinder a lot of them, for sure.
I think the
Claire Roberts.
last creature the most. I mean, I kind of like the one-eyed penis monsters.
Oh yeah, the one-eyed penis monsters, like when the ones spit up in
yeah, they're like Muppets. So
Yeah.
they're like scary Muppets.
Well, that's it. Yeah, they're not scary at all.
The
Actually,
chicken
they're
in the
cute. I
fridge
thought
was
they were cute.
fantastic.
What's that?
The chicken one in the fridge. I
oh yeah,
loved him.
Yeah,
At
the
the
chicken that
beginning?
went bad. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I thought it was really weird that the monsters were supposed to be scary, but they were actually really cute, like the penis monsters. I don't know. Maybe I just thought that. Maybe I said something about me, and maybe I should talk to my psychiatrist about
No,
it.
but they all had their own little business to do that made them cute. Like one was smoking, and I think one at the beginning was throwing up for some reason.
Yeah.
And they all had their own little jobs. They weren't really all that interested in actually doing their master's bidding.
Yeah, but it was, clearly this was probably like one of them. Just they found different ways to dress them up. But yeah, there was a bit of a Gremlins influence there of trying to give them personalities by making them do something
Now,
like
if-
smoke.
If the music video had been them,
Yeah.
then it would have been a great music video.
No, it's a
just
great
like-
music video anyways. All his music videos are great.
Oh yes.
Like if we could just went in on his music videos as like a follow up to this, a special, I mean, we'd have something. Because I think Thunder Striker is my favorite. That thing, but all of his music videos are just, like I said, a walking piece of Parmesan. This man.
He thinks well I mean he knows his audience, all 12 of them now, but he knows that audience and wants to give them what what is the core of Thor, really.
Or of Thor. I like that. You should tell him that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he, like you said, 12 is right, but those 12 are fanatical and loyal.
Yep, they absolutely are. He's a funny guy, but yes.
Jim, I'm sure you have another question to ask.
I do. So Stan and Jacob, you know quite a bit more about music and the music industry than I do. So I have a couple of things I'd like to get clarification on. So one, is 24 tracks a lot?
It's fine. Like
make a big
know,
deal about 24 tracks.
That's pretty typical back in the day.
Two,
because Rob Stewart and
Bob Stewart, isn't it?
Bob Stewart.
No, Bob Stewart.
Bob
and
Stewart
who was the other one?
Alice Cooper.
But no, you got it wrong. Alice Looper. I think it was.
That's another great scene.
Well, it's mumblecore audio, so it sounded right to me. I couldn't tell if they got both of them wrong or both of them right. Okay, so you're gonna record in a studio with a 24 track. I wasn't clear who the recording tech was.
There wasn't one.
There's no engineer.
There's no engineer, and the studio seems to have a lot of polished wood in it for a recording studio.
Well,
and straw. Don't forget straw.
Yeah,
I mean, straw actually makes more sense.
the thing about it is that there's lots of bands that have gone to barns, gone to houses or whatever, and the thing is that they don't necessarily have to build out special things because everything has a different sound to it, and so there's times where you just really like that sound. Now, what if they were actually recording that? The thing is that the drums would have needed some sort of like, barrier between them and the rest of the band, because otherwise they would have been just blasting the hell out of everything else.
Now, were they actually recording? Because they call it a rehearsal. The first scene.
Well, they called it a bunch of things, right? And you mentioned the 10 minutes of new music that they were supposed to come up with for some odd reason.
I kind of because
for the live show
talking about writing, so I thought maybe that explained the 10 minutes.
But yeah, like because there's the one point where it's just like they're rehearsing, and I thought it was for the tour, and then of course there's the 10 minutes, which I think is for a live show, and then he's writing a love song, of course, which is why he doesn't want to have sex, and and then there's also a point where he talks about recording a new album at some point in there. So I'm not sure he really knew what they were there for. No. But one thing is for sure, they didn't actually have an engineer to really record everything. Because I know that Thor or Triton...
Remember, these weren't real people. He didn't...
That's right.
Why bother to make a real recording studio? And
if you're going to make groupies for no apparent reason to come into the film.
There was groupies for no apparent reason. That's true. I could not tell if they were fake or not.
They were really awkwardly inserted groupies.
They are fake. Actually, he specifically says they're fake.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He says he copied them from Friday the 13th.
Yep.
Oh, that's for that one with the guy with the hockey mask.
Guy with the hockey mask.
Yeah, that's right. There they were, because the band manager, I'll call him from here on in, Little Harry Anderson. Little Harry Anderson answers the door and kept on saying, "Come on, you high school girls, show me your breasts." Which was really creepy to me. But
yeah, and they didn't do it.
Oh,
I know, which is the weirdest thing.
Yeah,
it's like normally when something like that is actually inserted into a movie, it's for them to show their breasts. I guess they figured all the rest of them did. So
showed their breasts in the movie. These four whose sole purpose appeared to be that did not. Oh man! Of course, then again, those girls playing high school. What were they like? I'm guessing in their early 60s. Like those girls did not.
That was going to be in my WTFs. Is I love high school girls. They keep getting older. I keep getting older, and they stay 35.
I actually had a theory about them being contest winners.
Oh, that's possible. But I don't think so.
No, well, they say
fan
that
club.
they found
that fan club.
that they fan club, but they say that they heard through somebody that they were staying in this town at this place hiding out, and so of course that's why they showed up there, because they weren't sure if anything was going to happen. But
from the real estate agent, like it's really the backstory that he creates. As far as developed characters, like all of the ones he invents are way better characters than they deserve to be for being imaginary.
For not actually existing, but they had to be real enough to bring Beelzebub out, Old Scratch, to actually lure him out into the open. Which makes me wonder, the family at the beginning in the house, were they fake or were they?
No, I think they were real. In fact, like the crazy thing is that it feels like at the end, Triton is, the intercessor, when he's facing him, is like getting revenge for that family. So I'm like, was there a tie that he has to that family? Because it feels like, oh, now I've done my duty, but I'm like, well, you weren't the little kid, so what?
Yeah, and he waited like 10 years.
Yeah.
To get the revenge. So, like, does he have like a waiting list for revenge? Like, because at the very end, Triton goes to a graveyard and says, "I've avenged your deaths," and it does not tell you who those people are.
No. But it just feels like he has some sort of connection. But it's just like, well, and here's the thing: I don't understand archangels and all that stuff. I don't know how a person applies to become the intercessor, but but it's like,
seems like a good gig, though.
Yeah.
I'll never remember intercessor. I will call him the inheritor. I'll call him like a billion things. I'll never remember intercessor.
Were you not just giving me shit for that not 3 minutes ago?
Yep.
Well, what do you say, boys? Why don't we score this?
Yeah, let's do that.
Sounds good. All right, in our search for the ultimate B movie, we rate films in 5 categories. None of these categories are objective quality. The first category is called schlock appeal, and as always, we start with Stan.
All right. Well, this one, there's, and I know, as Jacob mentioned, like, so for the first, about 45, 50 minutes, this one is pretty boring, other than a healthy smattering of breasts. But then once Old Scratch comes in and the battle scene begins, and he explains that that all of the vast majority of the movie was fake, then suddenly this movie becomes like a classic, because the battle scene is so absolutely horrifically awful and cheesy, and like Thor posing, and places where you think there's supposed to be sound effects and there's no sound effects, because that would probably add another quarter to the budget, and it was just fantastic in that regard. So that was the problem for me, was that most of the movie was a 3, and then the ending was a 9. So I'm only I'll go with a 6.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. This should be, considering all the elements it has. It has breasts, it has rock and roll, it has Thor, it has demons, it has penis monsters. It should be the schlockiest movie ever. But I think just execution wise, it just minuses so much schlock. I'm agreeing with you at 6.
This we keep on mentioning the penis monsters, and they're not actually. But I guess that this predates. When did the penis monsters from Lloyd Kaufman? When did he actually have an actual real penis monster? Was it before or after this film? Probably after, wasn't it?
Probably after, but I mean, Flash Gordon had them before that.
That's true. Good point. Oh, yeah. How could I forget that? And they looked a lot better in these ones. See, I would recommend not watching the movie. I would say just watch the climatic battle, which is on YouTube. You can just watch it in either an 18-minute form or 7-minute form. Either way, I'd say you watch that about 316 times, except for the fact that, once again, it probably should have been a 2 or 3 minute fight, and it's entertaining for 2 or 3 minutes, but it goes on for 7.5. So if you want all the lead up and the explanation of everything, then it's like 18 minutes. And if you want just the fight, it's like 7.5 minutes. Should have been 3. I would give this a 7 because I think the whole reason to enjoy this would be the schlock. But I'm judging it once again against his music videos, which are like 9s. So in comparison, I'm just gonna have to give it a 6.
6 was your number there. Well, let's make it 6s across the board. I think I think I'd agree that the on the surface it looks like it should be a bit tighter. It's funny because they get to 83 minutes. They could have shaved a couple of minutes off of that. Even as compelling a character as the van is, which is more than about half the characters.
It is a cool van.
It is. All right, our next category is called More Heart Than Budget. We have a listed budget on IMDb of $53,000.
Oh, you found a budget.
I did.
$53,000 in 1987. Let's figure out what that is today.
Yeah, let's stop and do some math.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'll start talking. I mean, $53,000 is actually more than I expected, but I suppose that the penis monsters and good old Scratch probably cost money. They don't necessarily look like they should have in some cases. And my biggest problem with this one, honestly, comes down to the rest of the actors. Now, unless they were told that because they're like some sort of, simulacrum, formless, just creations of the intercessor, and it's okay, you don't have to worry about actually acting in this movie, then they really did nothing other than show up and occasionally take their clothes off. Whereas, as we talked about before, Thor, no matter what scene he was in, obviously he was the most interesting person on screen, unless there was breasts, but, he was, he was trying. I mean, between writing this, of course, and doing all the music for it, and acting in it, and I'm sure that he told the director what to do half the time. And, of course, the big giant battle scene. I mean, he really wanted this. He really tried. And so for me, I'm going to give it an 8 just on how hard he tried.
Yeah, no, I mean, if I had seen this in the theater and left, and somebody who'd came by and asked me what I just saw, and I tell them it was a movie. This is a movie. It's not a good movie.
A movie.
Yeah, and 53 even back then was like not a huge budget. They
120.
They pulled it off, and it's not it is obviously a vanity project, but at the same time, I could see somebody going to see this in the theater and enjoying it. So yeah, it has heart. It got made. It's a real thing. So I will go with the 6.
Yeah, like I say, I'm coming at it from a different angle. Thor is a control freak, and he is somebody he's still out there doing his thing, and so I guess he's got heart, but he's also completely clueless as to why he doesn't have success, and I'm sure he's completely clueless as to why this movie's bad. In fact, I'm sure he thinks it's awesome because he's such a control freak and egomaniac, and that's part of his charm in some ways, but I'm looking at this. I'm like, look, if you really cared, you would have bothered to show that script to somebody else and had them say, oh, this is a problem. This is a problem. Let's fix this. He didn't. He would write it. He would control it all himself. And because he's Thor, he's perfect. Nobody knows. So we can do like him. He's just like that. And I think it's just lazy filmmaking to me. This whole film is lazy filmmaking, the special effects, all of it. So I'm only giving it a 3.
Wow. I guess this is one of those times that we're just see the category differently. I think that he wanted this to be his vision, and shopping that out to someone else would just be someone that was watering down the amazingness of how he saw it. So I think that this is a passion project. I think this is I think he was taking his shot at the big times. And this came out at a time that that was theoretically possible, that you could do something and knock it out on VHS and make some cash off of it and get noticed. So I went up to an 8 as well.
All right, you convinced me. I'll go 4.
Around on that one.
Yeah, completely changed.
All right. Tell it. Make sure that you've booked the whole weekend with a 24-track mixer. It's time for what the fuck moments.
There's, it's interesting because like there is a lot of them, especially that you see at the end of the movie, and I think that's the weird part about this movie, is that most of the time, while you're actually in the movie, you're like, oh, that's what the fuck. In this case, at the end of the movie, it's just like, wow, there was a lot of what the fuck moments that I didn't even notice were what the fuck moments when I was watching this movie, and so many of them are like high level things. I mean, you talk about the groupies. I mean, even you get knowing the van story, that kind of thing. One of the craziest things was Stig the drummer and his weird accent that was there at the beginning and then completely left. And then when he was inhabited by a demon, then it was suddenly completely gone, but he had to talk really low, like he was struggling to talk, and nobody actually noticed that, other than the fact that he became a better musician. And I'm like, if I were, Thor or Triton in this case, I think I'd rather have the demons, because they were better players than he had before. There's that moment where they go off to the lake, which was completely pointless, and the way they're walking is like, it's freezing cold, you can tell, and I didn't understand it, but some of my favorite moments at the time looked what the fuck are, like the penis monster spitting in a cup, which nothing comes of it. The monster in the chicken monster in the fridge, the coughing, smoking penis monster. I love the fact that when they're in the kitchen washing dishes, which is what the fuck in and of itself, they're and they're playing the music on the tape machine, and then the two characters get eaten by the demon, and then the next thing like the demon hand comes out and turns the music off, and I'm like, yeah, they're not a fan of the music either. But where it all comes down is the end. Everything changes at the end when he starts fighting fighting Old Scratch. But my favorite part about that was the wind machine for his hair, when he reveals himself as the intercessor, and he's like roaring back, and the wind machine is taking him, and it's just like, this was Thor's moment right there. Like, this is classic Thor in that moment, and I mean, it's purely ridiculous, but so much of it, I think, a lot of it is from really poor filmmaking choices, but it's still got a lot of weird shit. So I'm going to put a 7 on it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've sort of talked about a lot of the WTFs I had, and it explained them satisfactory to me. So, because I had the obsession with doing dishes and the gratuitous exterior shots of the house. When they were just putting everything in, trying to stretch this little short into a fully feature, it kind of makes sense. But the WTFs that got me are, number one, the dancing.
Oh, yeah.
People are not dancing to heavy metal, whatever they're doing, in every rock and roll scene. Whenever they show a shot of, like, the extras, or I want to say extras, but they're full-length characters in this. Anyone who's not in the band dancing is not dancing to the music that is playing in this movie. Obviously so. It is a weird dance that they do. And it happens like 4 times. Really bothered me. But the number one WTF me was the little purple throwing star octopus monsters.
Those were fantastic.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was trying to figure out what these were played
on. Why would you keep that in?
Oh, because they were made by one of the actors. Like
nice.
two of the people that were actually in the movie, when you read the credits, also did some of the design work. And so when it says like whatever it says for the octopus throwing star monsters, it says created by this person that was in the movie. And so it's just like, oh well, okay, that makes sense, because I'm sure he was proud of them.
Well, but here's the thing about
They
those
were so much worse than every other special effect in this movie.
which takes something. Like, the thing is, they tried to hide it, I think, because like him throwing it, it looked like they sped it up so you couldn't really see them. Like, I thought they were throwing purple airplanes at him, and then all of a sudden you get a close up of him holding it on his chest and trying to rip it off, even though it's obvious.
Now that was acting.
That's acting.
I actually had hope when he actually started ripping them off that they used the excuse to grease him up for some reason. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough grease, so because that would have completed the scene if it was a greased up Thor fighting the devil.
Uh,
Oh, I should score that.
yeah, that's what we're waiting
yeah.
for now.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with the 6 once again.
And I'm going to give this one a 7. The WTFs are pretty good. Certainly, I mean, that last battle. I love the test of strength moment where they're just two of them are pushed, and you can see it's just him holding the puppet up and acting like he's struggling against it. I like the scene where he goes down in the basement wearing his silver jacket that he was wearing during rehearsal. Then he comes upstairs to ask somebody a question wearing a sweater. Then he goes back downstairs and he's wearing a silver jacket again.
Yeah, I did not know bands rehearsed full costume. But
When he first came out,
I bet he always does.
yes.
Thor doesn't go half-ass on anything.
No.
The accent. I mean, it changed so many times in the movie. It would be there, back. I was trying to figure out what country it was. I think it might have been because he says, "Oh, mate." He says, "mate." So I'm like, he's Australian, but later on, it's clearly not Australian. It could be Russian. It's probably closer to than Australian. It's like, it's unbelievable to me. And I also like how how the drummer character has sex with the woman, but leaves his sunglasses on, and then when he's finished, he takes them off. I thought that was great. I don't know, man. This thing it's something. What a piece of work.
It's something. It is definitely something. I was going to add that they rehearse or whatever they're doing in costume. I think because we've debated whether they're rehearsing or recording or creating new music, but what is consistent is that they play one song and then take a long break.
Yes.
That's true.
Because they need to go have sex.
Well, but he's a heavy metal singer, clearly, but nobody else in the band is heavy metal at all.
Yeah.
Like, they're new wave. Everybody else.
Well, and honestly, what kind of idiot band brings the wags to where they're supposed to rehearse?
Yeah, especially when there's nothing to do.
They're on their honeymoon, which is, again,
yes,
weird detail to put in if they're invented people.
Yeah.
I also that there's like a romantic tryst between a woman who I didn't know until they started playing. I didn't realize she was part of the band.
No, for
I couldn't
sure.
figure out why she was there.
Yeah, she didn't get out of dish duty because the women
That's right.
go off to do the dishes and the band is going to go rehearse. But she goes with the women to do the dishes. Like, obviously her contributions to the band aren't that important.
But my top one would be that at one point they're trying to ramp up the dramatic tension, and the music that they put in is xylophone.
Well, that was probably
Yes.
probably because that was all they could really make easily.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the sound cues sound like they're stolen from The Omen.
7 for me as well. Memorable moments.
Well, the for the most part, I mean, the first the better part of the first hour of this is not going to be memorable at all. I'm surprised that I even remember it now after 2 days. But when it comes down to the actual battle, and when I see Thor in my head now, I am always going to see him, with that wind machine blowing, blowing his hair,
That's every music video he's ever done.
No, for sure. But and the huge battle with Old Scratch where which is totally life and death of him holding up the creature so that it doesn't fall down, because obviously that's its Achilles heel is falling down. It's that's the only thing though that I find deeply memorable, because otherwise, you're better off watching a music video, as you've said. So I'm just gonna go with a 4.
I think you went high on this. I am not going to remember this film. I might remember Thor, but I'm going to remember him being Thor. I'm not going to remember this movie. Special effects I thought were competent, but not memorable at all.
Competent, interesting. That's actually higher than I would go.
I mean, they're competent for what it is. I don't know. I'm comparing it to other movies of this type. I can't go more than it. I was going to be kind and say 3, but no, 2. It's gone. It's wiped already.
It's funny to me. I'm thinking competent special effects. And then I'm thinking there's the scene with the girl or the guy, and then
Perhaps I chose the wrong word. I mean, I like the special effects. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's the scene with the guy or the girl, and she becomes this demon monster with a bloody mouth. And then it is like he reaches out to choke him, and it's a close up of a hand, and it's clearly just a rubber hand. It's just a hand with a piece of rubber over it, and it's just and then that's how the person dies. There's really no deaths that you see on screen, is there? When you think about it now, for a horror film, you're used to seeing, heads chopped off or whatever, right? Like arms, or people being impaled and things. All the deaths are pretty much applied, they start and then they never actually finish and happen on screen, do they?
Well, but
that's a single one on screen.
No, but that's because half the time I'm not sure if they're getting killed or if they're getting eaten or if they're just getting, or what.
Or if they just disappear because they're not real.
Yeah.
You'd think if he is eating them, that's when he'd notice that they're imaginary. You'd think, he'd be like, there's not a lot of calories in that.
No, but Triton
there's also a weird thing where he has to seduce them before he turn into a monster. I mean, isn't turning into a monster enough? Why do you have to get them horny before you do what you're going to do with them?
Triton talks about them having juicy, tasty souls that would draw him in, and I'm like, how did he give them souls? And what the hell is that? How do you manage that? I mean, but again, are we trying to figure out the movie? Because I'm not sure that Thor would do it.
We're getting off scoring topic. I will never forget Penis Monsters. They're definitely so cute, locked into my head. Silver Jacket Thor is locked in my head. 4.
I'll split the difference and say 3. I don't think there's going to be too much that sticks with me. I think there's a lot of walking around in the middle of this movie. I might think of it the next couple of times I do the dishes. Our final category is called Crazy Concept.
For most of this movie, there's absolutely nothing crazy other than the fact that there's so many people doing the dishes. But the craziest concept comes down to the fact that with one moment he wipes out the entire movie by saying that he just invented this to draw him out. That by in and of itself is crazy. Nothing else is crazy at all. So I'll stick with a 4.
I want it to be crazier than it actually is. I mean, rock and roll, standard slasher plus Thor, it should be awesome. And but crazy, no. 4 as well.
Yeah, see, to me, I'm giving it a 1 until he explains how everybody was fake and how he's the interluder and all this stuff, and then I'm like, oh, okay, my bad. This is insane, and I got a 7.
It does go as it's. Well, it was odd because I was looking back through my notes, and I've got all these different questions that most of them get resolved because it's all made up, because they're all invented, and then it just opens more. Like, I'm like, why does this character do that? How does he know there's a lake? Why does he say it's a lake when it's clearly a pond? And then, like, okay, well, they're all made up, so it doesn't matter. And they're like, well, that just there's just opens more questions. Like,
Yes.
why did the pod people disappear at times? Like, what's why aren't they just there all the time?
There's the wolf boy who comes back. So then, was he real or was he fake? That's the, like.
You will break your brain trying to figure that out.
So he would have been real.
Okay.
No. Yeah, like the boy that's I don't know. I'm gonna match your 7 because I think that if you're gonna, when you do the elevator pitch, you've got to give that part. You've got to give that.
That's true.
And at the end, it's all going to be a fucking dream. That is a weird thing.
That makes sense. I'll go up to 6 for the fact that you're basically saying
Dallas.
Yeah.
This film pulled a Dallas on us.
Would have been nice if they foreshadowed it somewhere in there.
No, don't foreshadow it. I love the fact that you completely just pulled the rug out from under me, and I'm like, seriously, you did that? You went there? That was like the crux of the whole thing was the fact that you decided that I'm going to make an 80-minute movie that 55 minutes of don't matter for shit,
All right, 7 for me. This film falls right into the sweet spot for time, so no plus or minus there, which gives us a final total of 57 out of 100, which is exactly the same score as You'll Never Guess.
Skidoo.
Spellcaster starring Adam Ant.
Oh, another rock and roll.
That's amazing.
Right ahead of Bloodsport and right behind Dracula AD 1972.
Wow, interesting. It'll be. I know because we've got a few rock and roll movies coming up in this one, so I think it'll be fun to see how they score in comparison.
57 is the target for these.
Yeah. Mm. But at least it was fun to watch, though. So I'll say that. All right. Well, let me see now. Next up, it feels like it's been so long since we've done this. But next up, I know we are going away from the rock and roll, and we are going to the 1970s with Viva Knievel, and letting Evel Knievel, give us some action. And so, Jim, what do you say to some business?
All right. Well, we mentioned the Octagon. This is our giant chart tracking our search for the ultimate B movie. You can find that at our podcast sponsor, wetalkpodcast.com. They have a Facebook, they have a Twitter, and we have an Instagram. The Cult Film Showdown is what you can find us at on Instagram.
That's right. As we it's completely different. It's all new, all old, and completely different. That's the way that we go. But but yeah, I know it's going to be a lot of great fun this season. Seeing all these people who can act and shouldn't act in a lot of cases. So I look forward to moving on. Does anybody have anything else to add before we mosey on out of here? Doesn't appear like it.
I have some more questions about the plot, but yeah.
No more questions about the plot. We'll try to get Thor on the show and see if he can answer all those questions for us. I'll bet
he'd probably do it.
He'd probably enjoy it too. The fact that people have watched the movie and have questions, bet he'd love that. Might cause him to do a third one. All right. So. For Jim, and for Jacob, and for Nick, I am your host, 8th Dan Stanadu, and thanks for listening to the Cult Film Showdown.
Here's your new home for the next 5 weeks. Back to nature, huh? No hot tubs, no dynasty.
Hey, no one's lived here for 10 years?
Relax. Would I pick a loser?
What are we supposed to do here?
Rehearse, lame brain.
Prepare to die.
I knew if I pissed you off long enough, you'd make a personal appearance.
Accept the challenge. You're right. And never lose. We accept the challenge.
Let's tune our weapons.